hello everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Respect Team podcast. My name is Amy Hanna, and I have the privilege of being the director of the Respect Team, a nonprofit organization that speaks to middle school and high school students about the importance of self-respect and respect of others. Today with me, I have the beautiful, amazing Justus Kelley. Justus just recently received the title of first runner-up in Mrs. America, which is fantastic. We're so proud of her. Girl, I was rooting for you. I was so excited. You did awesome.
Thank you so much. I mean, I could feel the love on social media, and I just want to say I really appreciated you supporting and tuning in and just cheering for me along the way. It really meant a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So I asked Justus to come today because she has such an amazing story, and she actually shared to my Teen Speak students a little bit about her story, but I just thought I really want to put this on our podcast because I feel like people that listen to our podcast, I think, one, can be encouraged by your story, but two, most of the people that listen to our podcast, we do have students that listen, but I would say a lot of the people that listen are parents of teenagers too. So I think both the encouragement piece and then the education piece, I think, is really important. So before we jump into your story, why don't you tell people like who you are? Where were you born? Where did you go to school? All those different things. So just give them a little background.
Absolutely. So I am actually from Indianapolis, born and raised in Indianapolis, Eagle Creek area, northwest side. I went to the Oaks Academy from kindergarten to 8th grade before going to Cathedral High School. I now live in Bloomington. So I've been here for about 8 years. Indiana University is what brought me here. I studied public health, and Bloomington and IU is actually where I met my husband. So we are fortunate to have, for the last several years now, called Bloomington our home. My husband works for IU. I work for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So the last year has looked very different in that our office is in Indianapolis. Prior to the last year, I'd been commuting, but I actually work from home. So this is kind of my office setup and where I've been working from for the last year, granting wishes. But yeah, that's a little of my background, kind of where I'm from, where I am now, and we're definitely just looking forward to the future. I love, Amy, and just to have to say, thank you so much for having me. I love the opportunity to connect with amazing people like yourself, and just super honored to be a part of what you're doing today.
Yay, thank you. So is that a picture of your husband behind you?
It's not actually. And so I can share a little bit as I kind of get into my story, but it's a painting of my husband's younger brother. So he actually lost his brother to gun violence. And so that's something that we, talk about pretty often when we share about, adversity and things that we've experienced throughout our lifetime. But this is a painting that I actually had made for my husband as a wedding gift. So I had him painted in a tux, and it was up there with the gentleman that stood beside my husband on our wedding day.
Oh, that's special. That's so precious. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I thought, I was like, oh. Who is that back there?
Yeah, they resemble for sure. They resemble.
Yeah, well, of course, a brother. That makes sense. So yeah. So Justus, because you work for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, this is putting you totally on the spot. But do you have like one of the wishes that you have granted, which is such a fun thing to be able to be part of?
Yeah.
But do you have like a favorite one, or one that like really sticks out to you?
Man, that is such a hard question, because when I tell you I have such an amazing time with every wish that I'm a part of, I think one of the coolest experiences I've ever been able to be a part of, just in granting wishes and moving wishes forward in their journey, is really kind of those moments where kids don't realize just how like grand and big of a wish they can ask for. So we had a wish kiddo who asked for a soccer ball. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, because I'm like, kid, you can get your soccer ball and more. So, then conversations began of like, well, how about we meet our favorite soccer player and we'll play with your soccer ball that gets signed, and maybe we throw some goals in your backyard, like just all of the things that Make-A-Wish provides to really make that experience even more than what our kids are expecting and asking for. So I think just that memory of being able to like see the kids' eyes open really big when I'm like, you can have a soccer ball and more. Like let's keep talking about, all the more that could be. So yeah, I mean, every single wish is just amazing and so rewarding. But that for sure is a memory that stands out.
You get to be like a fairy godmother. You literally get to say whatever you want. We are going to make it happen.
That really is how it feels sometimes. I mean, I told someone when they asked what I do for a living, I'm like, I tell kids to dream bigger. like when it's like, what do you want? I mean, you can have anything, you can meet anyone, you can go anywhere. Those are my favorite conversations to have. So yes, I love that analogy of fairy godmother because that's how it feels sometimes.
Yeah. That's so special. So, Justus, let's jump in to your story just a little bit. So, tell us some parts of your story, and then we'll dig deeper.
Okay. Yeah.
So go ahead. Sure. Start where you want to start.
Absolutely, for sure. And I mean, I think it for me is always just something I like to preface with. I talk about hardships and I talk about things that I've gone through in life, but I also 100% recognize and acknowledge that I have had an amazing life, amazing childhood, amazing family. And I think so many could say that and can relate to, despite what each of us has been through, being able to see so many blessings and just privileges that we've experienced. But something that I am very open about sharing is my having experienced sexual childhood abuse. I know that for me at a very young age, that was something that definitely shaped my outlook of life. Unfortunately, being introduced to a world of what no child should experience, I just looking back, reflect on just the ways that impacted me. It really wasn't until college that I think I dug a little deeper into, research and just better understanding how abuse as a child, sexual childhood abuse specifically, can impact you in adulthood. And it really has been through therapy. It's been through talking with, my community and with friends and with trusted peers that I've learned so much about myself. And I love what you do when it comes to really emphasizing how to have respect for yourself and others. And I think it really starts with yourself. Like, I think it's in you being able to, love and just treat well everyone around you. I recognize that I wasn't doing that I wasn't treating myself well. There was a lot of just guilt and shame and things that I've had to work through in counseling and in better understanding myself. So yeah, I think just when I think about my story and who I am today, this is a part that sometimes can be harder for me to realize, but every single thing that I've been through has led me to being the person that I am today. And I wouldn't change who I am today for a thing. And I recognize that I've gone through everything that I've been through, and it has led me to who I am. So, even those questions that I've had in my mind of, why and how, and, what do you do with this? Or how in the world, and I've just got to say this, my faith is something I rely on quite a bit. So I sometimes will have this question of like, how can you get beauty from ashes, or how can something good come from this awful thing? But I do believe I'm a living testament of that. I do believe that it's been proven, just to myself by my walking that out.
Yeah, we have a statement that we say with the Respect team of we take our pain and we use it for a greater purpose. So it's, in fact, you got to meet some of our Teen Speak kids, and one of our Teen Speak students, his whole talk was going from pain to power to passion, and that he was able to look at his story and see a greater strength and be able to use that story for a greater purpose, for a greater passion. So I think that's so important. So Justus, you mentioned that whole thing with self-respect. What are some different things that you did personally to really build your self-respect?
Yeah, I know that I mentioned counseling, but I want to go a little deeper in this because I have to say I was someone who just didn't have a lot of exposure to what being in therapy could look like or what that meant. And unfortunately, just the stigma associated with mental health kind of thought like, no, I can't, I'm not that bad, or I'm not, to that level. And I think it was almost having to have enough respect for myself to say, I'm worthy of this. Like I am deserving of this. And it's not that, I'm just at such a low that, oh man, that's the only thing, that could help me. If that's where you are, great. But even if it's I'm a human being and I'm facing life just like every human being, and whatever that looks like for me, each of us really are worthy of having someone to process through life with. So when you say kind of what helped me to have self-respect, I think a lot of it comes down to who I was connected with, really surrounding myself with people that saw in me something that I didn't see in myself. So a lot of the friends that I have to this day, it's definitely been a journey of, meeting people in college that I didn't even realize would be in my life, for the rest of my life, my husband being one of them. But that, I think, just being connected to people that have respect for themselves, that kind of teach you and model for you what that looks like. I remember at one point being surrounded by people that I really looked up to and felt like, man, I mean, the confidence they have, the ways that they are so driven and they have these goals, and they're reaching their goals. I don't know if that could ever be me. But I love that when I think about that moment and who all those people were that I looked up to and just kind of felt like, oh gosh, you're so much further along in life than me. Those are my best friends. Like those are people that like really surrounded me. And again, what I didn't see in myself saw in me and constantly reminded me, no, you are worthy. This is a goal that you have and you can absolutely reach that. So I think that's a huge part of seeing it in yourself, who you're connected to. And then just recognizing that if you need to talk to someone, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, that's a very human-like thing to need someone to talk to, and it doesn't make you less than by any means.
Yeah, I love that you're working through that stigma piece, because I think so many times parents, but also teenagers too, when you have to go to counseling, it's that thought of, oh no, I gotta go to counseling, or my child has to go to counseling. So because my child is going to counseling, that must mean there's something wrong with me as a parent. But that's just not the case at all. In fact, I always say we should all go to counseling. Like, that should just be part of our yearly checkup, right? We go to the doctor. Well, we're supposed to go to the doctor for our annual checkup, but we should also go for a mental checkup too, because our mental health is just as important as our physical health. So we have a really amazing Respect team speaker that she loves to use this analogy. She always says, if you broke your arm, you wouldn't just be like, oh, that I broke my arm, it kind of hurts, I'll just wait for it to get better. No, you would go to the doctor, you would go to the hospital, you would get a cast, like you would take care of it. But I think so many times with our mental health, we just think, oh, I'm just feeling a little depressed, or I'm just feeling a little anxious. It's fine. I'll get through it on my own. No, like if there's something going on, it's so important for you as an adult, or even for the adults who are listening, for your child to go in to a therapist, to be able to go to a counselor and get the help that they need. So I think that's so important. So I'm glad that you said that. So
Sure. And I love what you added to that analogy of going to the doctor. I think that's such a good way to put it. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love the way you put that. I'm going to steal that if you don't mind.
you take it. It's not even mine. I think I always say it's one of my speakers, but I think she took it from someone. The best speakers we steal from each other.
Yes, we're all just passing along each other's analogies. I love it.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And I loved what you said about the people that you have in your life too. So one of the things that we tell our Respect team parents is to make sure that you have other trusted adults within your child's life. So especially for teenagers, they don't always want to talk to mom and dad about everything. I have 2 teenagers in my house, and let me tell you, I want them to talk to me, because I'm always like, but I'm fun and I understand things. And they're like, your mom. I don't want to talk to you. So it's important to have other trusted adults within your child's life, because they definitely need someone that they can talk to, mentors, people who are speaking truth to them, but like you said, people who are encouraging them and being an example for them to go, oh, wow, you were able to do those things. I wonder if I could do those things too. So, yeah, I'm so glad that you
Sure.
did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were with Mrs. America, I know that you had a platform. So for those of you that know nothing about the Miss America, Mrs. America, like none of that stuff, every what do we call you guys now? Participants? What are they?
Mrs. America calls us contestants, those
Contestants.
that are
Okay, it's still
participating.
contestants.
Yes.
Okay, so I wasn't sure because at one point they had talked about getting
Miss,
rid of
I
the
know it gets so confusing, but Miss America, I do believe, is transitioned to candidates using the term
candidates.
candidates. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, you can use either, but Mrs. Contestants is
contestants.
what
Okay.
I've heard most often.
Okay, so the contestants or the candidates, they each have a platform. So, what was your platform, Justice? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm actually the founder of my platform. It's called Building Inclusive Societies. This, oh my goodness, is a platform that has absolutely showed me it's a part of my purpose in life. My platform allows me to talk about the importance of acceptance and inclusion. It's something that, I mean, I think naturally throughout my entire life, because I've known what it's felt like to be excluded, I've really kind of in every environment I go in, say, where can I be intentional about creating an inclusive environment? Where can I be intentional about speaking up and making sure I'm not only using my voice, but elevating others' voices, making sure that everyone is heard, everyone is seen. And that's just, when I mentioned, I've realized it's really kind of my purpose in life. It's what drives me. It's what gives me life. It's what, when I wake up in the morning, I feel if I accomplish nothing today, as long as I am thinking through how can I make spaces more diverse and equitable and inclusive, I mean, I've done it. So yeah, I love that you bring up platforms, because I think for anyone who's not as familiar with the pageantry industry, you see the crowns and the glitz and glam, which is all amazing and I love it. But what is really special about pageantry from my experience is platforms, and each contestant's platform is truly what it's all about. I mean, when it comes down to it, each woman that is they're a part of a competition, whether it's for her state or competing at the national level representing her state, she's not saying I'm here because I want a crown in the end. She's saying, if given the crown, this is the cause that I am going to champion. Throughout my year, this is the platform that I'm going to push forward. So it was just such an honor to, one, represent Indiana, but also do it with a platform that means so much to me.
So, do you get to continue with that platform, even though you weren't crowned Mrs. America? Although we are all going to call you Mrs. America because that's just our personal opinion. But do you get to continue with that platform, or how does that work?
I do. And so I'm actually still Mrs. Indiana through June 5th. So we'll have a new Mrs. Indiana that's crowned June 5th. So after Mrs. America Week, the expectation is that every woman returns back to her state representing her state through the remainder of her reign. But I will say, even after, my Mrs. Indiana crown and sash are hung up and we have a new Mrs. Indiana, I absolutely believe building inclusive societies will be something that I continue working in. So that's what really excites me. I've found ways to incorporate and implement this work in so many different spaces, from starting an initiative at my job. We now have a diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative team, where so much of what I'm learning at work and just amazing conversations that I'm able to be a part of and able to initiate in many instances, to things in my personal life, things, organizations that I'm tied to, boards that I'm serving on, where this is absolutely a lens that I see through. And so just to be able to continue that work even after Mrs. Indiana is something I for sure look forward to.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad to hear that, because that, I feel like your platform is so important, and that work needs to continue. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I feel like that work should have started long ago, but it just didn't. And so I'm so thankful that people like you have stepped up and said, no, this needs to happen. So I'm so thankful for that. So you had mentioned that one of the reasons that this platform is so important to you is because you weren't always included. So tell us a little bit about that part of your story.
Yeah, I think a big part of what comes to mind in just growing up is really a lack of representation. Unfortunately, there's this saying that always kind of comes to mind when I think about representation and what that means to me, or even the lack of representation and how that might have impacted me. There's a quote that says, "You can't be what you don't see." And so I think for me, when I reflect on my childhood, just even there being times where you're looking for dolls or Barbies that look like you, and just kind of that internal thought process that goes on, where it's, well, why does one not look like me? Why can I not find one with hair like mine? Is maybe my hair not pretty? Or are there characteristics about me that aren't worthy of being, reflected in the toys, or the TV shows that I'm watching, or the magazine covers that I see? So a big part of my year has been really wanting to send this message of, there's a statement that I use a lot. It's "We are America," and it's really highlighting beautiful identities and just the cultural diversity that we have within our country. But it's to send a message that we are America, that, despite being left out of history books or magazine covers, just really shedding light on the beauty of our differences. So when you talk about, feeling excluded, it's kind of ranged from that lack of representation to even being made fun of and bullied as a kid, having attended schools where oftentimes I was a minority, or maybe one of the only Black women in my classes. And so just the unfortunate reality of what I faced, and questioning my own beauty, questioning my own intelligence, questioning how far I can go because of who I had seen in front of me, or who I hadn't seen in front of me, rather.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important that you are our Mrs. Indiana, that you're our first runner up for Mrs. America, because you have these young ladies, you have these little girls who do want that representation, who do want to be able to look at our people that are in these amazing positions and to be able to say, she looks like me. I wonder if I could do that. So it's just, that's so important, and something that I think people don't always remember and don't always consider. So that's why diversity is so important in every single platform, not just our Mrs. America pageants and our Mrs. Indiana pageants, but in every single platform. Like, we need to have diversity within our CEOs and our top positions. We need to have diversity within our schools. We need to have diversity within our teachers and our administrators and all sorts of different platforms, we'll say, throughout our whole nation. So yeah, so kudos to you for not allowing that exclusion to hold you back, because I think so many times when teenagers and children go through that exclusion, they feel like, well, I guess that's who I am. You just defined me, and that's who I am. So I can't get through that. I can't get past that. And you didn't allow that to happen. Instead, you said, no, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use my pain, and I'm going to use it for a greater purpose. So kudos to you for doing that. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. And I mean, I think it connects so well to, I've got to bring back up that analogy that you used of going to the doctor.
Yeah.
There's a similar one that activist Trevor Noah references in relation to diversity, equity, and inclusion work, saying that it's like going to the dentist. Like, this is work that we always need done. And it's not just a check, like, I attended that training, I'm good, 2020 highlighted some things. So I went to training, now I'm good. But it's saying, no, let's continue the conversation. It's needing our teeth cleaned every 6 months. It's saying, let's continue self-reflection, let's continue diving deep, and just being committed to growth in this area.
Yeah, that's so well put. So, Justus, let's wrap this whole thing up. What is some word of encouragement? You've given lots of little words of encouragement, but if you could leave our teenagers, if you could leave our parents of teenagers with a word of encouragement, what would you like to say to them?
I would say do not let your life circumstances dictate where you go from here. I recognize that unfortunately there are so many injustices and wrongs and things that I believe our world is working on making right. But regardless of kind of where we go and what we have yet to work on, I just want to challenge each and every one of you to reach for the moon. You know that saying, if you reach and you miss, you land among the stars. I remember hearing that as a kid and kind of thinking, okay, you know, even if that goal or that dream just sounds ridiculous, just so unrealistic. I mean, no one in your community has ever done that. No one in your family has ever done that. Like, let that be the goal. Reach for that. And I will say, I mean, I think I've seen in my own life, you will be so surprised at how you can be the first. You can be, you know, the first generation, the first of your family. You can be the first African American. You can be the first woman, and whatever that identity or cultural background might look like for you. Just knowing that you absolutely can. And you know, I bring up just kind of where we have to go as a world and as a country, because I think it's important. I don't want to send this message of every person has an equal opportunity of achieving. I think that's the unfortunate part of where we have so much growth, you know, and so much room to grow so that every person can have an equal chance and opportunity. But I want to share from someone who, you know, has had the background that I've had, and, you know, I've shared a little bit about myself, but just not letting anything keep you down, and not letting your life circumstances question your value, you know, knowing that you're valuable, knowing that you're worthy. So that would be my encouragement, you know, reach for those unrealistic, I mean, makes people laugh type of goals, like those things that, you know, just have people thinking, yeah, you're like, that's it. That's the one that you need to go for. And, you know, when they congratulate you later, it'll feel awesome.
They'll put a crown on your head and you'll say, see, I did go for that goal.
They'll do it. They'll do it.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, Justus. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It is
Yeah.
always such a pleasure connecting with you.
Aw. And we want to say thank you to all of you for watching, those that are going to be watching and those that are going to be listening on our podcast. If you want to learn more about the Respect Team, you can go to our website. It's just respectteam.com. You can learn about all the different things that we get to do here in our community, the different events, and maybe just want to connect with us, which is completely fine too. So we would love for you to reach out. Again, that's just respectteam.com. And of course, we want to leave you with our Respect Team motto, which is respect yourself, respect others, and of course, respect all.